Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Sunday Messages. We are doing a PTA episode today, so I have some prayer requests and an interesting topic to review with you this week. And of course, if you have a prayer request, an advice column submission, or if you want me to analyze something for an analysis segment, the link will be in the description box or the show notes, depending on where you're listening to this. It's also on my website, onyxhealing.com. So plenty of ways to access that. And also, if you are on my newsletter, I include the direct link every Sunday. So you literally get it sent to you every single Sunday, and then you can submit it. It's at the very bottom of the email. So I do make it as easy as possible for submissions. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into prayer requests. As always, they're in I'm in agreement for format. So if you can just be in agreement, that would be fantastic. We can get some movement in on this collective energy. Okay, so this first one is anonymous, and you are looking for a new home. You've been living in an apartment for 30 years with your family, and you are ready to evolve, to emerge, to move past this experience. So I am in full agreement for you to feel the path underneath your feet and know that the inevitability of you moving into a home, that is just the way it gets to be. That's the way it is. Full agreement for it to be easy, full agreement for the path to be clear, full agreement for you to release any resistance that you might be having to the right next steps or the sense of clarity, full agreement for you to feel a sense of peace as you move through this experience. And for all of the resources that are required to get you into the home, for that to be easy and effortless. Okay, this next one is also anonymous. And I am in full agreement for your clarity, that you're at this point in time not feeling that clarity about where to go next or that sense of ease in your movement. I'm in full agreement for that to emerge for you. And I'm also in full agreement for you to focus more on doubling down on things that are good for you. I know you mentioned some self-sabotage. Don't focus on the self-sabotage. Focus on overriding the current reality with things that actually feel best for you, things that are really in alignment for you and that serve you in present time and future time. Okay, last one, also anonymous. You all are secretive this week. Okay, so this one, you are looking for a job that is completely different from what you've been doing for the last 25 years. And there is a job opportunity available with a friend of yours in her company. So I am in full agreement for the right job to be received by you. I'm in full agreement for the next job to feel good as you transition into it. I'm in full agreement, this or something better. I'm in full agreement for expedience as well as ease in you allowing this transition into your life. And I'm in full agreement for not just decent pay. I'm doing air quotes. That's ridiculous. The universe can dazzle you. Ask for more. I'm in full agreement for you to not just focus on decent pay, but actually focus on abundance and overflow and more than decency. Okay, that is all the prayer requests for the week. Before we get into this analysis segment, I want to remind you it is open application season for Eden. This is my 6-month mastermind. It is all about restoring heaven on earth, creating your own paradise, and there are no limits to the expansion that happens inside. I'm so excited. We start in January. If you feel called to work with me, if you want me to be in your pocket at all times, go apply. onyxhealing.com/Eden is where you can get the application. And as always, the links will be in the show notes, description box, wherever you might be listening to this. The analysis segment that we are unpacking today is all about MLMs, or multi-level marketing. Now, this was also an anonymous submission, And really, the person who submitted it was kind of like, go wherever you want to go with this. So, in my opinion, I think this is one of those highly misunderstood topics. So I'm going to give you my interpretation of the energetics as always. And I also have some interesting story times about multi-level marketing because I have a very interesting relationship to MLMs. Personally, I think I know way more about all of this stuff than I ever thought I would, but it's serving this conversation, so let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing that I want to distinguish, that I want to tease apart and explain the legal difference between a pyramid scheme and an MLM. An MLM is a type of business structure, which some people love it, some people hate it, but regardless, a true MLM has a neutral business structure. It isn't good or bad, in my opinion. I don't think that the way an MLM is structured is a bad thing. It's just that there are some other funky energetics that can make it very sour for people. So understand that when someone is talking about an MLM, they're talking about the way a business is designed, the structure of how the sales team works. That's really what they're referring to. A pyramid scheme is different. A pyramid scheme is where you're selling hot air. So a true pyramid scheme is illegal. Let me give you an example. Beachbody is an MLM. They sell fitness and health supplements and protein powder and workouts, okay? That's Beachbody. They're selling actual product. And the reason why Beachbody does really well is because people love them. People love the workouts. People love the supplements. People love Beachbody products, so it thrives. It does well. If there was no product that was doing well, Beachbody would have died very early on, okay? A pyramid scheme is, let's say I started a company and I said, hey, we're a life insurance company. So if you buy this certificate and you give me this amount of money or you agree to pay this amount every month, you will get X amount of dollars in life insurance when you die. But really, I'm lying to you. There's no life insurance, there's no payout, there's no real policy, there's nothing backed by it, there's no authentication process, there's no anything. It's, you're paying me every month, I'm selling you hot air, I'm selling you something that doesn't exist, you're not going to get paid out. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can't sell hot air. So let me explain the structure of an MLM, but I'm going to apply it to my personal business. Let's say that I wanted to change the structure of my business to be an MLM. I wouldn't do this, but let's just say I did theoretically. How I would do it is I would say, okay, I make these online courses. I have these classes that you can take with me. And if you get really good results from the classes that I put out, if you want, you can sell them and make commission on selling my digital programs. And if you're really good at this and you know how to teach sales and you're a really good salesperson and you can share that with others, you'll get even bigger bonuses as a result of you teaching your team. So if you recruit people to sell my online programs, to take the online programs, talk about them, share their experience, sell them to other people, if you're a good teacher and trainer of sales, you can make even more money. You'll make more bonuses. I'll give you more money to recruit more people. So then you would sign up with me. I would give you like an employee number. You would get a 1099 from me every single year saying how much money you made in a calendar year based on whenever you signed up with me. And you'll get commission checks every single month for however many programs you sell. And people are buying my stuff through you. And the thing is, that business structure, by itself, plain, just like that, there's nothing wrong with that. If you really do love my work, if you are really good at selling and you want to sell my stuff, you can. And then you can make money doing it. And then my impact, my outreach can grow. And then your team can grow. And then more people can make more money. And more. It's not inherently bad or evil. Okay, this is not where the energetics get distorted. The thing is, MLMs are really good for people who are naturally good at sales, but you have to absolutely love the product that you're selling in order for you to be good at it and for you to thrive at this. If you are head over heels in love with an MLM product and your entire heart is invested in it, you can make a lot of money through an MLM. You can grow in an MLM. It's absolutely possible, and there's nothing energetically wrong with that. So for myself, it's like I've seen a lot of single moms orient towards MLMs. Why would you get mad at a single mom for trying to put food on her table? Like, that is not something that I would ever shame or say this is bad. It's bad that you're feeding your child this way. At that point, if you are good at sales, then seeking out a sales-oriented job where you also happen to have time freedom isn't necessarily a bad idea. We see this in all different industries. I see this in the pharmaceutical industry. I see it in the dental industry. I see it in the injectables, like face filler, Botox, Dysport. I mean, all sorts of sales jobs exist where you are making commission based on the products that you're selling. The chicks at the Macy's counter. If you work at a makeup counter and then you make a huge sale, a lot of the time you make commission. If you walk into a Nordstrom, they're making commission on what they sell you. So this commission-based sales work is not where the energetics are distorted. I'll explain to you where things go sideways. Once again, pyramid schemes are lies. You are straight up lying to people. It is pure manipulation. It is 100% you are robbing people. That's what's happening in a pyramid scheme. That's why pyramid schemes are illegal and MLMs are not. MLMs are just a type of business structure that you can opt into. This is where things get wonky. So at a certain point, if you are running an MLM company and you have, like the last time I checked, I don't know if the number has changed for Beachbody, but I think there were something like 150,000 sales reps for Beachbody. Okay, that is a lot of people. A lot of people. And don't forget, you're getting a 1099. So you're not an employee, you're an independent contractor for Beachbody. And this is one of the advantages for people who design their business and structure as an MLM. It's because an infinite number of people can sign up and work for you. There's no limit because they're not employees and you don't have a high level of contact with every single person. Usually the way people who are, the CEOs of an MLM, a lot of the time they're going to have a small team of sales reps. So just a very small curated team of in Beachbody, it would be the top coaches are on committees and things like that. Or you might have just a very small group of sales reps who are really, really gifted at that. And then you work one-on-one and you train and collaborate with that small curated group of people. So understand that aside from the group of the top in the industry or in your organization, the way everyone else is selling cannot be micromanaged because it's not a Macy's counter. If you were working at Macy's and you were at the makeup counter, if you did something fucked up to a customer, you would get fired. In an MLM, if you do something fucked up to someone, you won't get fired. This piece right here is where everything goes sideways. The number one thing that poisons MLMs, and the reason why it has the reputation that it does, is because people enter MLMs from scarcity, not abundance. If you sign up for an MLM and you start selling MLM products and you're in scarcity, this is what puts you at risk of being manipulative. And if you're really, really, really deep in scarcity, that is what can lead to straight up predatory behavior. And this is something, it does happen, right? So predatory behavior in an MLM is, and I've seen this happen, where a Beachbody coach was preying on someone who had cancer and trying to make them believe that Beachbody was going to heal their cancer. Predatory. You can't do that shit. That is the type of stuff that makes MLMs look bad. It's not the business structure. Once again, business structure, totally neutral. You can design a business and have it operate in all sorts of ways. You can have people who are selling for you, and the commission process and the team building and all of that commission structure. There are infinite ways to design that in a company. So that part doesn't even matter. This part does. The scarcity piece leaking into how people are selling and people being desperate to make a commission check. People who are desperate and scared and in scarcity and don't believe that there's an abundance of people who would like to buy from you. If you don't have that level of consciousness as you're selling, you're going to have commission breath. 100%. People are going to feel I want to make this sale. It's not going to be genuine. It is not going to be authentic. You're not going to be dropped into your heart and coming from your heart, and it is going to poison the sale, and that is why people struggle. Here is the next piece that confuses people by conflating an MLM with a pyramid scheme, because it doesn't have to be this way, but it can become predatory through presenting the sales representative opportunity to people. So doing it in a way that has high integrity and is of high service is through transparency. Once again, sharing from your heart, being honest, being authentic about the experience and what the potential is. Something that's predatory is, oh, what's that? You're broke? You're struggling? You are having difficulty putting food on the table? Oh, well, I have the solution for you. Here, buy these pills and powders, and if you sell these, I can make you a millionaire. When you are selling a recruitment opportunity for an MLM, and your energetics are not heart-centered, and I guess we could call them impure, as in you have ulterior motives and you don't actually genuinely care about other people, and it's not something that you are doing from a space of service and potential, and because you're passionate about sales, right? If you're not doing it from that space, then you are going to be a magnet for people who are going to be victimized. And so this is where you get the other side of the reputation, where people are like, my God, you've spent thousands of dollars, you've dumped thousands of dollars into this quote unquote business opportunity, and you have nothing to show for it. This is now giving people the impression that they've been scammed. The thing is, energetically, that is possible. It is 100% possible for you to have slimy, sleazebag energy and work for an MLM and be associated with an MLM company. And a lot of the time, the organizations are so big that the people who are at the top cannot comb through hundreds of thousands of sales reps and start auditing each person and how they're selling and the conversations that they're having with people online, and then saying, if you behave in this way, you're going to be terminated. We're not going to allow you to sell for us anymore. That is something that is not possible at the scale that MLMs are operating at. It's just not. And so this is why there is so much dysfunction inside of MLMs a lot of the time. This is also why you hear people on both sides. You have some people who are like, this MLM changed my life. This opportunity selling these things changed my life. That is true. This is the thing that people are missing, is there are people in MLMs who are doing it in a kind, heart-centered, ethical way. That is happening. You're just selling a product. The product is neutral. The business structure is neutral. It's the people who make or break the reputation of the company. And I would also say the product. The product is the other thing that will make or break it. If your product is shit, it doesn't matter what type of structure you're in, you're going to fail. If your product sucks, the market will decide. If your product is rad, if people love it, the market will decide. Now, on the other hand, you have people who come in contact with someone who is super gifted at sales, but also super sleazy with really, really foul intentions, right? And ulterior motives. And then they fall victim to something that they were not an energetic match for. And then you see people hemorrhaging cash for something that's just out of alignment, who's been programmed by someone who has really, really bad motives. And so this is why you see a lot of people who are like, I was bleeding cash because of MLMs. But again, it's not the MLM, it's the programming. It's the way you were sold this opportunity. It's the fact that you weren't using your discernment. It's the fact that you weren't actually tuned in with what's good and bad for you. Your compass was off when you were being introduced to this opportunity. And so now you're making misaligned choices and getting misaligned results. And then you get the sob stories that come from MLMs. Then sometimes you will just see the management, the leadership at the very, very top is so rotten that everything else underneath that, the entire business structure, bottoms out. This is what happened with LuLaRoe. It was like a firework, right? So it shot up into the sky really, really fast. They grew into a multi-billion-dollar company. It exploded into the atmosphere. And then it disappeared. I mean, that MLM is pretty much dead now. I mean, I'm sure they're still making money. I'm sure it still exists on some capacity. But I mean, did you see the documentary? That was pretty telling. So the problem with LuLaRoe is that they weren't anchored into any values that were, they could actually stand the test of time, is the best way I can put it. They didn't have core values, they didn't have any business experience, or they didn't pace themselves in a way where it created a strong foundation. They were just kind of riding the wave of fun and excitement, but not being mindful or conscientious, and it really did ruin everything for that company. Which is sad because a lot of people were invested a lot of time, money, resources, relationships, built a lot of things around that. And that's the stuff that makes it sad, is when it's not done well and it's not done ethically and it's not done responsibly. This is a theme in business across industries. When you're not mindful, when you're not conscious, when you're not dropped into your heart, you poison the way business is done. Another point that I'd like to make here is that I have seen almost every possible experience that someone could have with an MLM company. So I have seen people who quit. I've seen people thrive. I've seen people do okay. I've seen people make it a full-time 40-hour-a-week job. I've seen people do okay, quit their job, but then overwork themselves and go back to their original career. I've seen people become millionaires and make shit tons of money, 6-figure months, no problem with MLMs. I have seen people step away from an MLM, quit, and then decide they don't like entrepreneurship. They go back to the MLM. I have seen every possible experience that you could imagine. So from my vantage point, this is why I have pretty neutral feelings about MLM as a business structure, because the people are what make or break it. The product is what makes or breaks it. The leadership is what makes or breaks it. The values of the company, the conscientiousness of the company. These are actually the things that matter, not what type of business structure are you using. In terms of my personal experience, I think some of you will find this interesting. There was a period, I would say, between like 2014 and 2017, 18, where MLMs were booming. I mean, we had doTERRA got really big, the essential oils. Then you had, I knew a ton of Rodan and Fields reps. I knew, I was introduced to Prove It in like 2016 through someone. There was like a huge Beachbody purge that happened around that time where a whole bunch of Beachbody coaches hopped over to Prove It. I was around for all of that. So I've been like oddly in this MLM world without being in the MLM world, if that makes sense. So I've always had my eye on it and known what's going on in the company culture and what's happening with the businesses and what's happening with the leadership in some of these brands. So it's been something that I've been watching for a very, very long time. And for me, I was first introduced to an MLM, I think, towards the tail end of 2014, early 2015, if I remember correctly. That's when it started coming into my awareness. It was very, very popular. At least that's how I felt. It was very present at that time. And the reason why I even knew about it was because I was running a business at that time called Miss Immaculate. I don't think I've ever told you the name of that business before. But I used to have an assisting company where it was just me, and I would basically do grunt work for entrepreneurs. That is all I did. I learned as much as I could about social media, and I would work for entrepreneurs doing all of this stuff that they don't want to do. So at this time, I had a friend that I ended up meeting who was a Beachbody coach. And I didn't really know what it was about or anything like that. And then one day, she was like, I want to buy this for you. It's called a challenge pack. That's what they call them. She was like, I want to buy you a challenge pack. I want you to try this. So I told her, okay, yeah, that's fine. So then she was plugging me into all of these Facebook groups. Okay. And this is pretty standard practice when it comes to MLMs, is they run a lot of Facebook groups, different team stuff, different calls each week, different leadership training, sales training, all sorts of stuff. So because my friend was like, I want to hire you to do some of this work for me, like different scheduling posts, different social media stuff, all sorts of things. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So I'm now immersed in this MLM world. I'm on these calls, I'm on these trainings, I'm learning all of this stuff about social media. So I didn't realize it at the time, but I was getting a ton of basically free education, is how it felt. I was learning so many things that I ended up using for my own business later on, like when I originally started Onyx Healing. By the time I got to building Onyx Healing and building a social media following, because remember, I started on YouTube. YouTube is where I grew my following. That's where I built my practice. YouTube, I'm originally a YouTuber. So a lot of what I was doing at the time was really coming from my MLM background, even though I was just observing, I was just learning. And for me, all of those trainings that I attended, they really, really served me for many years to come. And it's something that ended up evolving into a whole other business, which I ended up launching kind of in the interim in between Miss Immaculate and Onyx Healing. I was running a business called Media Maven, where I was essentially consulting because of everything that I had learned and practiced and built and helped business owners with for many years. Then all of a sudden it evolved into this consulting, and ironically enough, a part of it was from those trainings that I did years prior. What I don't think people realize is that an MLM is not just sell this shit. That's not what's happening. I think that's what people perceive from people who are really bad salespeople, or people who are really slimy, or people who have been victimized by people who are predatory, right? Because all of that stuff exists. And so if you're looking at an MLM from a singular dimension, you can either think it's God's gift to earth, or you can think it's, Satan's doing. And the reality is that both exist. Both things have the potential to exist within that business structure. That's all that's happening. There's one more piece that I think is worth mentioning, because this is something that I think more people are blind to when it comes to MLMs. There's a lot of programming involved. So there's a lot of dogma, and there is a lot of, this is how you do it. This is what you need to be showing up for. This is how much you need to be working. This is how many people you need to be touching base with. If you want to be successful, you need to do this, and this. There's a lot of rigidity. And the reason why this has kind of morphed and developed inside of these organizations is because of the volume. Teaching someone how to sell one-on-one is actually very, in my opinion, I think it's much easier to teach people and help them refine on a one-on-one basis. If you are trying to teach 150,000 people how to sell, that's an impossible task. And so the way that they've mitigated that issue of volume is by adding structure. So one of the things that masculine energy helps with is when you have such a large container, a large group of people, you do want something that's masculine that can kind of cut through the infinite experiences. And when you do that, that's what leads to dogma. So it's an attempt to try to make the selling process one-dimensional, which it can never be, but it's an attempt at doing so. Because if you're able to include a masculine structure that is large enough to encompass hundreds of thousands of people, you're going to have a better chance at doing it that way than trying to tailor it individually. That is something that can only be done on a small scale. So the thing that, in my opinion, gets lost is the individuality. When we're talking about what can be done at the very, very tippy top, like on a CEO level or on an operations level, very little. You're going to have some structure, but it's not going to be able to accommodate very much individuality. But the smaller the group, the more individuality you can accommodate. So that's really the piece that I think is missing, is the smaller the group, the smaller the team, the smaller your unique sales group, the more you are going to be able to really accommodate for lifestyle, accommodate for personal experiences, personality types, things like that. So it has the potential to get more specific as you break down into smaller and smaller groups. But when you have something that's really large, it's going to be difficult to manage that. So people forget that scale is an issue. Just like with a defective product, I'm calling it a defective salesperson. That is also something that the more volume you have, the more you will see that, or you will find that in a given organization. So for example, like if we're sticking to a product, let's say you make you make a toy, and 1 out of every 20, 30,000 toys is defective. That's not very many at all. But if you scale that up to tens of millions of toys being sold, and then you're saying, hey, you see a bunch of people, my toy is defective. Oh yeah, my toy is defective. My toy is defective. It looks like there's shit tons of defective toys, but really it's just that the people who have received the defective toy are very, very outspoken about it, and there's a lot of talk about it. You don't hear about people who are just having a chill experience with an MLM. You don't hear those people talking about it because it's a chill experience with an MLM. So this is one of the other reasons why you have this really crappy reputation. You know, I do feel bad for a lot of people who are in MLMs and have good hearts, because it's neutral to me. I can see the neutrality and kind of see the forest through the trees. But if you haven't been immersed in it, it's very difficult to see the same thing that I see, you know? Okay, so just for fun, I thought I would share a funny MLM story, because this is completely within my personality. I'm sure you can see my facial expressions throughout this story. So this friend who introduced me to Beachbody back in the day, she wanted to take me to this team lunch. I didn't have anything to do that weekend, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. That's totally fine. Just going to this brunch and then going to some event. I was like, yeah, whatever. Again, I'm just observing, just attending these things and hanging out with a friend. So I'm not thinking anything of it. So we go to this brunch, and it's all Beachbody coaches. So at this point in time, I'm basically a nobody, right? Because I don't want to call it cliquey, but there's very obviously a dominant culture, and I am very obviously the black sheep of the group. I do not fit in with this group of people. I'm the weirdo. So all of a sudden, the big wig, top Beachbody coach, tippy top of Beachbody strolls in, and she's having brunch with us. So you can imagine me being the odd one of the group. You can imagine a queen has entered, and I'm completely indifferent to what is happening for the rest of this group. So one of the things that is really common in MLMs in my experience is the Tony Robbins style of mindset work, or the Gary Vee style of mindset, and crush your goals and get after it every day and grind and hustle. There's a lot of hustle bro culture in MLMs, okay? And never doubt yourself, you're unstoppable, crush your dreams, eat fear for breakfast, right? All of that stuff is very, very present. One of the things that surprised me the most, at least about this experience that I had, was the level of ass kissing that was taking place. This confused me personally, because the top coach is not actually someone who can influence your success in any way. She can't influence very much. She might be able to give you the opportunity to do a training, but she's not going to make or break your business. She is not going to be the one who determines what happens for you. And so I was really confused by the amount of ass kissing that I saw. And I'm sure you can imagine, with my personality type, I'm not particularly good at that myself. So I noticed that the friend, this is a relatively new friend, but she completely changed in the presence of this top coach. What was a completely different person, was kissing ass beyond belief. And of course, Jessica found it completely revolting. How could you abandon yourself and start behaving this way? This is absurd. So I'm just sitting quietly, nobody's talking with me. I'm just awkwardly sitting at this table. And this top coach, they're talking business, they're talking MLM things. And she asks my friend, she says, So, why do you think that people doubt their ability to do this? What do you think it is about other people that makes them think they can't have what I have? So my friend plays dumb. All of a sudden, she starts fawning and is like, I have no clue why anyone would ever have that experience. I don't know why people are like that. Now, you all know me, I'm expressive. So when that flew out of her mouth, I probably looked like I smelled rotten cheese. And I couldn't even help myself at that point. It flew out of my mouth. I was like, what? Are you serious? And I'm saying this to like the elite, the top of the top coach. I'm like, are you serious? Of course people find it unattainable when they're looking at someone who's 8 years, 6 years into their business, who has this dreamy life that they're shooting in DSLR. Of course, people are going to be intimidated by that and consider it to be something that's not attainable for themselves. That's a completely rational perspective that someone who is just beginning is going to conclude for themselves. So now I have the attention of this top coach, okay? And she asks me point blank, she says, so why do you think you can't have this too? And my response was, I never said that. The entire table goes dead quiet. Every single head turns and looks at me. You can cut the tension with a knife. And that pretty much killed the entire conversation, and she shifted her focus away from me, and everything resumed after a very long, quiet pause. Anyway, let this be a warning to all of you. I don't take kindly to people putting words in my mouth. There are no exceptions. And I think this is another thing that turns off a lot of people is the amount of, we must all think the same way. We must all be a hive mind. We must all, worship the queen and worship the ground she walks on. I don't like that stuff. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be that way. It just so happens that there's a lot of groupthink in MLMs for whatever reason. I don't know why that business structure is infused with so much of this, but that is one of the most difficult things to overcome, I would say, for anyone who's in an MLM is the groupthink, the dogma, and the programming. The thing is, you can break the mold, you can do it differently, you can do it in a way that is specific to your needs and your lifestyle. All of that is true. It's just that there aren't very many people who are willing to operate from outside of the box and start stretching and evolving and changing how things are done. So anyway, that is, in conclusion, my thoughts on MLMs. It has very little to do with the structure of an MLM. It has everything to do with the leadership, the people, the way that business is being done, the way that sales are being made, the fact that there are very few people who are doing it from a heart-centered space. However, that has absolutely nothing to do with the company in and of themselves. It has nothing to do with the structure of the company or anything like that. So that is where I would tease those things apart and understand that there's such a diverse range of experiences that boiling it down to a few, success stories or boiling it down to a few tragic stories doesn't actually explain the full depth or the full picture of what's actually happening within an MLM. So it's a highly nuanced topic. This is why so many people disagree about everything. But in my experience, you can find a true story that fits pretty much any narrative. So if you start cherry picking them, you can create a singular MLMs are blah, blah, blah based on these things that I've cherry picked. And I don't think operating like that is fair when it comes to anything. So That is the most nuanced perspective that I can give you about a very nuanced topic, and I hope this has been helpful. If there's anything that I hope I've accomplished today is just that if you see like a single mom who is running a Facebook group and is involved with an MLM, don't judge or hate or think she's stupid, okay? Please don't do that. If there's one thing that I have personally learned from all of this is that there's a lot of people with a lot of backgrounds, a lot of needs that MLMs happen to fulfill for them. It's really not my place to judge what type of sales or business structure someone gravitate towards or what their experience is. So if there's just one thing you take away from it, it's don't necessarily judge people, even if there are bad apples who exist in this particular industry. Because remember, it's not that MLMs are fraudulent. That's not an accurate statement. What is accurate is that MLMs are very good for people who are good at selling. That is a more accurate statement. And the reality is, not everyone is good at selling. Okay. Let's move on. Let's pull some cards, wrap this episode up. It's been long enough, my God. What you need to know about the week ahead. Okay, we have the Knight of Cups, Queen of Rods, and the Nine of Pentacles. This is a bright and shiny week. I feel like a lot of people have been having a really rough time lately, just with their mood or old stuff coming up. You know, we're in between eclipses, all of that stuff. And so there is something happening this week that is going to reactivate your confidence, your belief in yourself, your belief in your mission, your purpose, what you're doing, your sense of loving life is the main thing that is coming through. So this would be an excellent week to start planting positive expectations. I mean, we should always be doing this because the more you do it, the more it will happen. But I had a conversation with a friend last night, and I think it's helpful to mention this now, is she was telling me that she was upset about a paycheck that she got. And she was being really hard on herself about it and was upset with her manifestation and blah, blah, blah. And what I told her was, you have to understand that that check that came through, you actually started creating that weeks and weeks ago. That didn't just happen. That's something that you were getting really shaky and really destabilized around. Like 3 weeks ago is when that really started. Maybe even a month ago is when that started. And so now you are just seeing the after effect of what you were doing a month ago. So all of the stuff that you have coming in is actually things that you were creating a long time ago. So if you allow the old stuff to poison the now, you're missing the opportunity to plant new seeds. So you constantly want to treat every day as, okay, I'm planting new seeds and those are going to grow later. Choose wisely. So the interesting thing is that the Nine of Coins is about enjoying the fruits of your labor. It is about enjoying wherever you have been doing, I loosely say wherever you've been doing the work or the alignment or the focus, you are starting to harvest some of that this week. However, this is not the time to abandon your intentionality just because you might have some things rolling in or because things are settled, let's say. So for you, if you're focused on money, which is a big topic for a lot of people, if you are really focused on money and you're going through this feast and famine cycle, like you only feel okay as soon that one moment where the paycheck comes in or money hits the bank, and then all the rest of the time you're spent in terror, you need to intentionally plant seeds. It's like celebrate what's good, amplify what's good, appreciate what is good, and then continue intentionally planting what you want to see happen later. Because the reason why people struggle with it is because you can't see it. And I'm inviting you to do and act and behave in a way that is operating off of faith. And I know that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. So just understand that that's really what tending your garden is about, if you will. The Queen of Rods, this is like a surge of energy, feeling like you have your mojo back. Some life is being brought back into the situation or you. There's a reinvigorated spark. Something has generated some momentum. So that is going to serve you really well. And then the Knight of Cups, I see a delivery is the word that came up. So something being delivered. I don't know who. I feel like there's going to be a split off. Some of you are going to have that delivery, right? Being able to receive something. Someone is bringing something, or a manifestation being delivered, or there's like confirmation or information coming through that is going to play out this week. Or I also kind of want to give this a 2-week time frame I'm seeing for some of you. So that's another thing that's coming through. For others of you, I would say get into the atmosphere of loving first. So leading with that first. It's not operating from a place of this is conditional. I need you to do this and be this way so that I can then be loving. Invert it. Be loving first. It doesn't mean to overdo it or cross boundaries. That's not what I'm suggesting. It's the energetics. Energetically love first and see what happens to the situation in response to you leading with that part of yourself. Okay, friends, this may have been one of the longest episodes of PTA ever, so I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much. If you would like to submit, donate, request a prayer, anything like that, the link will be in the description box or show notes. I love you so much. Thanks for hanging out with me. Have an awesome week, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.